Hello and welcome. You're tuned to The Leg Up, your weekly thoroughbred preview podcast. The usual suspects in studio, Paul Mawadi, Stephen Hunt. Good morning, gents. Good morning, Paul. Crazy old week, though. That's probably the first thing we need to mention.
Yeah, it certainly has been. I mean, we all love this racing game, but it just goes to show there's bigger and better things going on in life, and when our thoughts are going out to all those people who have been affected. There'll be a number of participants of this industry who have been affected, but just know you're in our thoughts.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, just imagine not being able to contact the people. I mean, like, not knowing whether they're safe and well. It must be hard.
It'd be very, very hard. It's almost like third world conditions, and I'm not having a go at any of the...
You're not getting political on
No, I'm not. It's you just wouldn't expect that sort of thing here in New Zealand, but just the force of Mother Nature is just... she's done her thing, hasn't she?
Yep, she certainly has, and the clean-up begins. Good luck to everyone out there. Good morning, Steve. Big weekend of racing at Te Rapa, and probably highlighted by Imperatriz. What a win that was.
Yeah, what a win. Visually, it was outstanding. Backed up on the clock, Imperatriz winning the BCD Sprint in superb fashion. I look at these times and breaking down the race. They've gone out to the 646 and change, 5.8 lengths above par for the open class, and then coming home last 600 at almost 34 flat, 5.9 lengths above par, with an overall speed rating of 6.4 lengths above Group 1 standard. So she was outstanding in Imperatriz. You go back last 20, 30 years, they very, very rarely break 121 over the 1400 metres at Te Rapa. Her weight for age performance rating was a tick over 107, which was 2 ratings higher than her PB previous leading into the race, which was this year's Railway. So she was an outstanding form on Saturday, and hopefully that bodes well for her campaign over in Melbourne.
And look, Ryan Elliott got the job done, a more sharp and smart boy. He looks in for a good campaign. He had to do it a little bit tough there.
He had to do it tough. 3 wide facing the breeze. And look, there's a lot made about Ryan Elliott. Look, he's been under some pressure rides in the last 4 to 5 weeks. Legato in the Karaka Classic, Sharp and Smart in Thorndon Mile, and also last Saturday in the Herbie Dyke. And look, it must have been very difficult for Ryan to go into that race with plan A locked in, because we spoke about the map and how to assess and how it would plan out.
We didn't quite know what the map was going to be.
We just didn't know how it was going to unfold for the first maybe 2 or 3 furlongs. And what I liked about Ryan's ride, as much negativity has been surrounded it, is that he showed intent initially, but there was that initial speed underneath him that caught him wide coming around the first bend, and then he looked to just default and go back and try and find some cover, and as soon as he did that, the pace slackened underneath him. So look, things just didn't work out, but he didn't panic. He kept the horse in a nice stride. A little bit of a bump with Opie at around about the 300 metre mark at the top of the straight, but the horse did a fantastic job to get over the line late. And even going back to the Thorndon Mile, look, I know Ryan's had some harsh critics on social media, etc. And look, the Thorndon Mile, let's remember, I mean, on the eye you could have been a little bit disgruntled about his ride, but you break it down, it was a sit and sprint, the Thorndon Mile. You had a horse there resuming, first up over 1,600 metres on a heavy track. He was vulnerable at that kind of race shape where it was a sit and sprint, and it was a sit and sprint. He was a bit flat-footed at the 600, but you look around about the 600 metre mark, and Ryan's trying to urge the horse to hold that spot one outer and get to the outside rail, and he just couldn't do it. The horse couldn't go with Ryan, and he lost that position. No fault of the jockey, had to come underneath them. It was an unlucky second. He's a doozy. So, look, I don't know Ryan. I never met the bloke, but I'm going to defend him here in the last 3 to 4 weeks.
Okay. Good on you.
What about Sharp and Smart? How good?
Oh, very good. Very good. I mean, he's got a busy 2 to 3 months ahead of him. They're talking Sydney, they're talking Brisbane.
Talking Hong Kong.
They're talking Hong Kong. If they mention Europe, I'm not sure. But in the immediate future, it's all about the Derby. He's a $2.20 favourite on the back of that win on Saturday.
Yeah, it was very impressive. We're going to see some Derby aspirants obviously going around on Saturday in an Avondale Guineas. Up to Hamilton Studios for Brendan Popplewell, boys. Catch up with him. No. What's he doing? Oh, he's gone to the cricket, hasn't he? Yeah, taking his sons to the test.
Yeah, they've got their battles ahead of them, the Black Caps, haven't they?
What a test to go and watch.
Well, yeah, the pink ball, yeah.
Oh, Bazball, pink ball.
Declaring it with 25 overs to go so they can get a crack at the pink ball. Very, very good stuff. So hope Brendan and the team, the family there, are having a good old weekend. You're stuck with us for the next 55 odd minutes on the leg up. Okay, Steve, we've still got a maidener of the week because you've chosen one for us. Where'd you land here?
I've just bent the rules fractionally. I've gone with a maiden as at race. Don't tell BP. But I'm going to race 2 at Te Rapa last Saturday on their premier day, and this was an outstanding race to follow the top 3. Firstly, on the winner, Sans Doot, sat 3 wide facing the breeze on speed off a race that rated a fraction above par to the 600. They've run home nice sectionals, and she's managed to get the job done and fighting off the second and third horse, which I'll touch on shortly. But Sans Doute, all credit to her because she did it the tough way. You look at the horses that were surrounding her in the race. Those sectionals are fractionally wrong, to be fair, but it was look, the overall class rating was 3-point lengths above par, so forget those sectionals in the bottom left-hand corner. This race rated through the roof. Sans Doute, as I mentioned, did it the hard way. Maybe Cambridge Breeders.
Oh yeah,
Cambridge Breeders. In May. Cambridge Breeders, I'd suggest around Sans Doute, but the second and third horse, Nyance, produced the fastest last 4. And 200 metres, I think a set of blinkers. She was just a bit wayward in the straight, maybe a set of blinkers. She's still yet to win a race, so she can drop back to maiden class. And Master Brutus, just ridden differently. I think a lot of people were prepared to take the 240, the 260 quote on him on the back of Maven Bellform line, thinking he might go forward from barrier 10, but Craig Zaki opted to default back to the last 2 or 3 in running. He showed a different side of him where he can come off a hot tempo and finish off the race. And as I mentioned, the top 3 are all worth following as we head towards the next 2 to 3 weeks.
You got big shoes to fill.
With BP.
Well, if there's one thing BP can do, it's identify a maiden. So I hope that you keep this sort of hot streak that he's on. And
I'll try my best.
He loves to identify a maiden BP, doesn't he?
He does.
Yeah, and follow a few out of them. And it looks like there's a few to follow out of that race behind Sans Doute from last Saturday. Okay, team, 4 races we want to have a look at. Pukekohe and obviously Invercargill as well, which is going to be an interesting meeting. We're going to have a look at one race from there, but we're going to start obviously at Pukekohe. Steve, track conditions, what are we going to strike? I'm presuming we've had some rain up there.
We have. Last 7 days over 120 mils. You see there graphically Pukekohe weather and track. It's currently rated a soft 7, and that was taken earlier this morning on Friday if you're watching the show live. I'm hoping it gets back to a 6 early doors tomorrow with a possible upgrade of a 5. And look, the rail's out 5 metres. The last meeting that was held at Pukekohe was obviously Karaka Million Night on the 21st of Jan, and the rail was out 2 metres there. So they've just gone fractionally out a couple more metres. I don't think that should pose any dramas in terms of where it should be in the running for jockeys, etc. But look, I'm guessing come Auckland Cup in a few weeks' time, they might look to put the rail in the true position. So they're just protecting that first 3, 4, 5 metre strip. But rail out 5 metres, as I mentioned, a soft 7, hopefully for an upgrade on particular race day.
Okay, let's have a look at the Guineas first. The AJC Avondale Guineas Group 2 over the 2100 metres, and obviously a lot of these horses will have an eye on the Derby, or certainly half an eye. Run us through this market, Steve.
You're headed by Waitak, 380 into 360, a well-backed runner, better back to what it was 2 weeks ago in the Waikato Guineas, interesting enough. You're taking a longer quote this time in though. Around Desert Lightning, that second line at 4.8. Just out of turn late to $5. Loose Spender, the Waikato Guineas winner, at a $6 price. Devil Dom, the runner-up in the Guineas, at $8. Bitcoin, barrier 1, just out of point in a turn, 7 out to $8.50. Warsaw have been back, 21 into 13, and Dynastic holding that line 13, got as short as 12, just back out to 14, and best of the rest is Channel Surfer at a $21 price. So Warsaw, that's the one they've identified in the middle market. That's just happened this morning. But Waitak and Desert Lightning have both had friends in the first, roughly 36 hours of trading.
Yeah, okay. Was this a difficult race to speed map, Steve? Because obviously not a stack of form to go through. So how did you land here?
Well, I've got Awesome Dude. Now, remembering Awesome Dude is E1, Emergency 1, so he needs a scratching before he starts in this feature tomorrow. But if he does, he's the default leader. There's no doubt about it. He'll lead. He's got a middle gate to play with. Loose Spender should sit in the first 2 and running. Whether he wants to get a bit of cover, Awesome Dude, or sit outside remains to be seen. But look, if Awesome Dude doesn't make the field, then I've got the leader around Loose Spender. Desert Lightning, Phantom Dragon, and Warsaw should all be able to use their ideal gates and sit in the first half of the field. I'm not sure about DiMaggio and Jafira. Now, they've both drawn wide gates. They have shown tactical speed in little data thus far, but they might just try and go away with that those sticky gates and show a bit of intent early doors. Bitcoin and Duelist, Devil Dime, you've seen draw barrier 1, 2 and 3 there. Look, I think they'll look to just hold a position around about that midfield position, get a little bit of cover, those 3. And around the favourites, you've got Waitak, who would default probably to the last third with Dynastic. Look, Dynastic's probably got no option there from the car park draw, and Channel Surfer, Full of Sincerity and Trav have little tactical speed, and they'll default to the last third also. So, look, it's always hard. A lot of these horses stepping up to 1.25 miles, 2,100 metres for the first time. So in terms of a map, you're never confident, and around the tempo, quite often leading up to Derby races, they slacken the tempo mid-race, etc. So that all remains to be seen. But Awesome Dude's probably the intriguing runner if it is to get a start at Leeds.
Yeah, okay. Well, look, I suppose the most obvious form reference would be a Waikato Guineas. Paul with Loose Spender winning, Devildom second. Waitak a well-back favourite fourth. What do we make of Waitak, and do we forgive him? And how do you rate this Waikato Guineas?
Well, I think, and that speed map, I think, almost shows what could sort of another replay with Awesome Dude if he does make the field, going up front and Loose Spender, just falling into a lovely rhythm with Kosi Asano aboard, and thoroughly deserved the win there. But I don't think we should throw Waitak out with the bathwater. Look, found a little bit of trouble at the 600 metre mark, race wide without cover for quite a while in that Waikato Guineas. And then sort of got forced down onto the inside in the straight. It was a tough run, and still kept coming. So let's not be too harsh on Waitak.
Yep.
We can certainly keep him in the, I guess, in calculations. Loose Spender did everything asked. Well, look, Kosi rode a brilliant race in that Waikato Guineas, so obviously a chance here, I think around $6. I thought arguably the run of the race was Devildom. Just if you wanted a dress rehearsal for the Derby, there's one that you'd absolutely love. I'm sure if he was here, he'd mention 61s now into 14s in that Derby futures market with a number of tickets riding.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Who else is there? Oh, Dynastic.
Dynastic, yeah, it's hard to, the Karaka Million 2-year-old winner from last season just hasn't been as dynamic as last season, without being bad.
No.
Hasn't run a bad race.
No.
Just hasn't really been able to sort of get over that hump, I guess. But you just can't ignore a Mark Walker trained runner in the Avondale Guineas, and you're getting $13 on Dynastic. So look, I really do like Waitak, but it's a wide open race.
It is. Steve, what do you make of that Waikato Guineas? Because, Loose Spender won it as a relative outsider. There was a lot of money for Dynastic, and Waitak started short.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to make of the Waikato Guineas. I said, I think 7 days ago on this show, I'm just not sure how to read it, in particular for tomorrow's assignment, also looking forward to the Derby. I was very keen on Waitak. It was just a funny race, a funny ride. Look, he looked under pressure at roughly around the 600 metre mark. He went back to almost last. Then Craig decided to go back on the inside and hug the rail and make his run on what you'd naturally say was the IG back end of the day. As we say, it was a genuine heavy track that day, and they're going to be playing on hopefully a 6, maybe even potentially a 5, come race 5 tomorrow. So, I don't know. And then you got to roll in the Loose Spender form, winning the race and paying a big dividend. So that always puts a bit of a question mark around where you look. I want to stick with Waitak purely because on the better track conditions. As we mentioned continuously on the show, you get a heavy track, it's just a genuine leveller, and those high-class gallopers come back to the pack, and I believe that was the case around Waitak. He can run very, very sharp sectionals. His form 2 starts ago was around Pro S, who's been a sub-winner twice. Obviously the Karaka Classic and winning last Saturday in the Phillies Classic. So, I'm willing to take a gamble that the better track is the key around Waitak. I've got no dramas that he'll get a mile and a quarter. A Derby distance is still a bit of a query, but I think a few of them have that query, including Loose Spender, who on pedigree shouldn't be getting 2,000 metres, but he got the job done in the Waikato Guineas. And when you break down the Waikato Guineas, they ran 1 length above par to the 600. So it was run at a fair clip, and Loose Spender was the deserving winner and got the trip. So probably the negatives around Loose Spender. I just don't think it'd want anything better than a 5. All its best form seems to be with the toe in and a bit of fire out of the track. And even if he runs top 2 or 3 Loose Spender here, I just couldn't have him at a Derby trip over 2-4.
Yeah, okay. He's not nommed for the Derby.
So no, but they're looking to late nom him, and if he runs in the top 3, he's qualified. So
who's a Loose Spender, sorry, we're talking about? Yeah, okay. Well, look, one horse that would deserve a win at some point, not that it hasn't had one, is the second favourite in Desert Lightning team, and this is it in the correct. Speaking about prowess form, Desert Lightning 3rd here, and super consistent, Paul. Good run here.
Oh, it was a great run here. Once again, as you say, doing everything but win over the last few starts, and a win can't be too far away, certainly in those silks. But look, You have to have it in your multiples.
Yeah.
You'd be silly not to. And off of that run there in the Karaka Million 3-year-old Classic, there's nothing to take away. You've got to, I really do like the look of Desert Lightning.
Yeah, what about the distance here for Desert Lightning, Steve, and anything else? I mean, it's been an unsung sort of horse amongst this 3-year-old crop that we've mentioned have been very strong.
Well, he just brings the A-grade form, doesn't he, into the race, where we've got question marks over the Waikato Guineas in terms of where it sits against the likes of the Karaka Classic and also the Herbie Dyke when you're looking at the Derby picture, but he brings A-grade form. He bounces second in the 2000 Guineas late last year, fifth in a strong speed rating in the Uncle Remus, and then last start third in the Karaka Classic, which stands as #1 ranked 3-year-old event thus far this season. So, look, he maps well, Desert Lightning. His sectionals late in his last 2 runs have been very, very strong, to suggest that the 2-1 shouldn't be a problem off what has been solid tempos in those 2 runs, as I mentioned, the Uncle Remus and the Karaka Classic. The only question mark about Desert Lightning is that he wouldn't want the track to be around that 6-7 at present. He needs the upgrade. He needs the upgrade fast. I don't think he wants it any worse than a 5 Desert Lightning. So again, it's a little bit of trepidation of where this track's going to find itself on mid-afternoon tomorrow. But Desert Lightning, the better the track, the better his chances.
He keeps finding trouble.
Yeah, well,
He's
gets
been
back
extremely unlucky in a number of starts this time, and I think
he's drawn sticky gates though. He's drawn 9, 10, 9 in his last 3 starts. He's got a far better gate here in Barrier 4. Vinnie Colgan knows the horse.
Can he use it, I suppose? Can he use it?
I think he can, to be in that more neutral position. I don't think they're going to go hard for the first 200 or 300 metres in this race. A lot of these horses, as I mentioned, have a bit of a query around the distance. So I think a lot of jockeys will be mindful of that, and I don't think they'll want it to be run at a very true tempo, the Guineas. Yeah, I think he can find that neutral position with a little bit of cover on the inside.
Yeah, sometimes those horses, though, Paul, that keep finding bad luck, just sort of keep finding bad luck, don't they?
It's like a terrible cycle.
Yeah, exactly. Well, fingers crossed for Desert Lightning. There's one more race we want to have a look at, and that's the Ginger Nut Salva. This was won by, I don't know who this is won by, but Devildom's here second. Loose Spenders in this one, Steve, and Bitcoin is an interesting runner. Obviously, split these two that day and brings a different form line, Bitcoin.
Yeah, missed the run in the Waikato Guineas. They opted just to bypass that. Cruise Missile was the winner here, ran in the Herbie Dyke and failed last week. Whether he heads towards the Derby remains to be seen. But you can work the form around Loose Spender, Devildom, and then you've got Bitcoin, who was hitting the line powerfully into that 3rd position, Bitcoin. And look, it's only had 3 starts, so one of the lightest race gallopers in the field, and probably has as much upside purely on that score alone as any in the race. And look, maps to be positioned midfield, a little bit of cover, similar to where Desert Lightning may find itself in the running. And on pedigree, a full sibling to Gypsy Goddess, who won an Oaks last year in Queensland. So this horse, I think they'll be crying out for the Derby come a couple of weeks at 2,400. Yeah, one horse that just might get in a sticky position, possibly, has low tactical speed, but as I mentioned, 2,400 might be its little sweet spot in a couple of weeks and wouldn't be the rough horse to just maybe spice up exotic bet types. Not sure he has the capability of matching the likes of Prowess and Sharp and Smart thus far from what I've seen, but yeah, definitely can be in the first 2 or 3 tomorrow, but he's one horse crying out for 2-4.
I think on the eye it looked like Devildom had actually got there. In fact, I think Stephen Marsh, the trainer of Cruise Missile, actually said that after the race. On the eye, I didn't think he had actually got there. So once again, another big run from Devildom up the inside there. But that run by Bitcoin, well, certainly.
I wonder what price we've got in the Derby for Bitcoin, just out of interest.
I think it's roughly around about $21, $26 from memory.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, there's a very congested around that mid-teen to
outside the top
line.
2, basically.
Absolutely. So we're looking for a third fave when it comes to the Derby.
Yeah.
You've got Sharp and Smart 220. You've got Prowess at $4, and it's double figures the rest. So we're looking for that third favourite that may come from this race, the winner, and potentially solid in between that $10 and $4 line. But yeah, just last start maiden winners, Andalus, Phantom Dragon, both come out of that meeting at Te Rapa on the 18th of January. Just on raw figures, Andalus rated 1 length superior v Phantom Dragon. Jafira recorded a pretty good speed rating when winning at Tauranga a couple of weeks ago, albeit on a heavy track. And Warsaw, look, nothing flash on the clock, but...
Well, what's the story? There's been a decent move here, isn't there?
Yeah, there has. It's what we probably here call in the office smart money to drive it into, roughly 26 into 13. So it's halved its quote, Warsaw. Look, I wouldn't have it any shorter than $13, but you've got to respect the early move around number 12 there in Warsaw. And as I mentioned, nothing flash on the clock, but I think you've got to trust the eye on Warsaw. It was a pretty arrogant win, didn't beat much at Matamata, but it got the job done. Was it Matamata or Te Rapa?
No, Matamata, you're right.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think you just got to respect that. Out of a Zabeel mare, so stepping up to 2-1 for the first time shouldn't be any dramas.
She's been a good producer, Stanica, too. I'm sure that's a very good family, that mare. Yeah, staying family too. So, okay, Paulie, but who else do we need to mention here? I see money for Channel Surfer, who we saw in that Karaka Million 3-year-old. Bit of money for Trav, bit of money for obviously Warsaw. Anything else on your dance card here that we need to touch on before we move on?
Yeah, I had a look at the market before we popped up, and I saw we took a $500 each way bet on Trav at 41s and 8s, now into 31s and 6. So obviously there's a bit of confidence around the Raymond Connors trained runner Trav, but. I know I said it was a wide open field, but I think it's going to be a battle between a couple at the top there, the Desert Lightning and Waitek. I think these two fight it out coming down the straight. But I will be tempted if we get a drift on Saturday on Dynastic. It's unbelievable the amount of times we've had a Tiako runner that's drifted out to $16, $17, $20 in a major race, a black type race, and it comes home. So Dynastic will be in my numbers if we continue with this drift. What now? $14.
$14. It was a lot of money for it. Well, there was a lot of. It was a big price, but
SP 420, 440 from memory in the Waikato Guineas. You're getting 3 times that price tomorrow to find out if it can do the job.
Wasn't a bad run.
It wasn't a bad run. Again, hey, if you want to take it at $14 and you're backed at the Waikato Guineas, go again, I'd suggest, because, as I mentioned, you're getting 3-4 times the price. But and the cloud that surrounds the Waikato Guineas is a form reference.
Okay. Where'd you land? Pulls up the top spiky end of the market here, Waitek and Desert Lightning?
I didn't have much between Waitek and Desert Lightning. I've fractionally got Waitek in front of Desert Lightning. I think they have the A-grade form around Proes, etc., and the Karaka Classic, in particular Desert Lightning. So there's probably not too much between them. The fact that Desert Lightning probably gets a better run in transit as well improves its chances. There's 360 plays $5 at this stage, and I probably rated them around about that price. So there's not much fat on the bone there, but they're the leading contenders. And I think Bitcoin, I just want to see what he does in the concluding stages as a horse that maybe can run the top 3 or 4 in the Derby in a few weeks, and Warsaw as well. I respect the move, 26 into 13.
Got to watch that money for Raymond Connors runners, don't you?
You certainly do. It's always a good guide.
Trav into $31. Okay, the boys hovering around Waitek, which is the favourite in this year's Avondale Guineas team. We're going to push it along. We're going to go to race number 7 on the card, and that is the ATR Avondale Cup Group 2 over the 2,400 metres. Steve, run us through this market.
Headed by Aquacade, $4.20 into $4. Dionysus at $5.50. Contemplation, the stablemate at $6. You got half a dozen here in single figures, including Z4s at 7. Self Obsession and Soldier Boy $9 each of 2, and notably Soldier Boy has been a firmer 12 into 9. Outside that, Soprano Supreme has come in a couple of turns, 14 to 12. Henapara, the defending champ, at $14, hasn't budged since the opening call. And then best of the rest is Platinum Invader with the top weight, and You'll Do, who needs a scratching or two at $26. But look, overall summary, no strong lead at this stage there. There's money for Aquacade, there's money for the Roger James pair. Z4s is very solid in that 4th line, and your firmers sit with 6 and 11, Soldier Boy and Soprano Supreme.
Okay, Paul, look, I suppose the first one, a few races we want to have a look at here, but the Wellington Cup contained Dionysus and Contemplation, won by Leaderboard, of course, but the Roger James holds a pretty strong hand here.
It certainly does, and you should be very, very encouraged by the run of Contemplation here. I thought it was super. What do we get? $6 at the moment. If Contemplation had got up, I probably would have broken even for the day, but it wasn't to be. Leaderboard hangs on and thoroughly deserved the win. But as you say, Contemplation Dionysus, I thought was another tough run, and just couldn't quite get to the right part of the track at the right time, which is what Leaderboard did. So you can't take anything away from the two Roger James Wellwood runners, and they will feature prominently in my numbers.
Yeah, Dionysus, Steve, carried top weight that day. Probably gets a little bit of relief into this, really.
Yep. Drops goes up half a kilogram, but
On the scale, sorry.
on the scale, yeah. But look, I think there was a vital stage in the Wellington Cup. It was very much a sit and sprint. To the 600, they've gone out 8.3 lengths below par, and they've run home 37 and change, plus 3.4 lengths for the last 600. So it really did suit those horses that were pretty much on speed, contemplation, etc. Where Dionysus just hit a brick wall at a vital stage at the 300 metre mark, which we did pick up on that vision, and just stopped its momentum fractionally and had to pick itself up on heavy track conditions. So a lot of merit to its run, Dionysus, and you could say outside the winner, it was probably the run of the race, and we've totally respected that purely on that score at $5.50 in that second line. Contemplation, look, he's a horse that
I like him. He's coming up nicely, isn't he?
He is. I don't think it's a total negative with the improved track. He puts himself in the race, which is always crucial to these staying races, these open class staying races, because they can be quite often tempo related. And Contemplation's one horse that kind of puts it out the window by purely his tactical speed, and I've got him in the first 2 or 3 on the map here as well. So at a $6 price, they're both attracting a degree of money. The 4 and the 12 have no strong lead. Which one's the number 1 seed out of the James Wellwood team?
Okay, well, let's talk Aquacade, Steve, because look, it's been in a purple patch of form, a winner of its last 2 and 3 of its last 4, and certainly a horse, a stayer coming through the grades. This was dominant on the eye.
Yeah, very, very dominant. And look, initially when I did the review, it came out yuck, but then I went back and checked the times, and they were just a little bit wrong, so we had to readjust them. And the win was very good. It matched what you saw on the eye, on the vision. And look, he put a field which is, you'd have to say, the C graders in terms of what he's meeting on Saturday at Aquacade. But she's a racehorse. She's a genuine racehorse. She's running the best figures out of any horse in the race leading into this. And she sits on the minimum, which is a beautiful recipe to take out tomorrow's event. She's adaptable. She has tactical speed if she's drawn a gate. Look, she doesn't draw a gate on Saturday. So on that score, I think Warren Kennedy just has to default to the last third of the field. But as I mentioned, she's just a genuine racehorse. She's a deserving favourite for the Auckland Cup in a few weeks' time, and she's clearly the one to beat.
That was a dominant run at Tauranga, but the run before that at Te Rapa, where she beat the likes of SVR, who then went on to win. She beat the likes of Candy Rock, who all but won next time.
Storm nearly won again too. I think that was in
Contemplation was in behind Aquacade at Te Rapa, so certainly the form has been franked, and with that dominant win at Tauranga, deserves her favouritism. Also in that race at Tauranga was Lincoln King, who I think it's in 2 kilos better off in the weights against Aquacade here. So
you're not tipping a $51 shot here, are you? Is this where this is going?
Well,
few shekels maybe.
Just a look. You'd be disappointed if Lincoln King got up and you didn't have a $1 or 2 on. So
well, we know Lincoln King's been a good stayer of note in the past. I mean, I think he finished second in the New Zealand Cup, or the like. So third up into this. Some improvement for Stephen Marsh. He's going well.
He is.
Okay, $51. The other race we want to have a look at is the Karaka Cup, Steve. Z Falls. Look, she held out Tutukaka this night. I won't say I wasn't pleased to see that on the evening, but she got the race run to suit, and she did the business, didn't she?
Yeah, I think the race prior to this set her up for this victory here on Karaka Million Night. She was on speed, it was dominant, and it rated okay. You see Contemplation, so you can work some form around him in terms of how you assess C Falls against the Wellington Cup, etc. But as I mentioned, this race was set up to be a winning chance to what it did previously at Te Rapa in the QE2. In the QE2, they went out extremely hard to the 600, over 18 lengths above par. Z Falls was on speed, sitting outside the leader, and was the one horse that was on speed that continued to progress down the straight and only got bombed late by Self-Obsession and Dionysus, who were in that neutral position off that hot tempo and finished over the top of Z Falls, who finished third in the end. And I thought it had a lot of merit, and I've got her in the top 2, Z Falls. Again, she's one horse that has tactical speed, can put herself in the race from barrier 1, the 5-year-old mare by Sacred Falls, and I just worked that room around the QE2, and I thought it was just as good a run as Dionysus, purely on how the race was run.
Okay,
I see we had a bit of money on as well. 7's into 6, back out to 7 now. So
Little early move.
Little early move, yeah.
Well, the chances don't end there, to be fair, Paul. I mean, Soldier Boys and Great Nick.
Soprano Supreme.
Sopranos. Who else do we need to touch on here for us?
Oh, boy. If you look at the results last week, you didn't have to look too far out of the box.
No.
There are a number of, most of the shorties got home for punters, and I'm sure the figures showed that on Monday. So I'm going to try and look slightly outside the box here and there. Look, I don't know. I don't mind Roger That. I know it's out at 41.
Roger That?
Hasn't
What?
really done too much, but I love it over the distance. I know Steve has no liking for it whatsoever, but
Good old Roger.
I'll have to.
Oh, look, I think he's had his day in the sun. Won an Auckland Cup winner a few seasons ago. He's an evergreen 10-year-old, so I think you're deserving of the big price around him. Again, one horse that doesn't mind getting his toe in the ground. I concede that, but his form in recent starts has just been a little bit below. That's what
You've got the makers of a decent Quinella here. If Lincoln King and Roger That can run first and second, you might be able to doctor us up and have a look at what the fixed Quinella would pay in a minute. But Steve, Self-Obsession is a horse I want to touch on before we move on here. What do we do? Because, her form line prior to last start was very good. She was knocking on the door and then obviously had a few concerns. What do we do this time?
Yeah, I don't know what to read out of the Taranaki Cup a couple of weeks ago when she started one of the favourites in that race. She on the ice she was poor. I see the vet inspected her after the race and rated her 1 out of 5 lame. So there's a slight forgiveness there around Self-Obsession. I think you just got to back her and trust. You're getting an okay price to compared to what her SPs have been right throughout this season over a staying trip. She can go right-handed, no dramas there. I think the improving track, again, a bit like Desert Lightning and the 3-year-old feature, she comes into it with that improving track between now and race close around Self-Obsession. Not sure where she maps. She has shown tactical speed, in particular as a 3-year-old, not so much as an older horse. So I'm guessing they just default back to that last third from a wide gate Self-Obsession. But you look at the Taranaki Cup as a form reference because we do see a couple of horses that bounce it out of that race, including Soldier Boy. The race actually rated okay. It rated okay, 1.7 lengths above par. You break it down and you normalise those figures or the speed rating compared to the likes of Aquacade and Dionysus and Contemplation, the Wellington Cup. Those horses don't need to improve much, including Soldier Boy. And we know Soldier Boy earlier this season was respected highly enough to contest at weight for age. Didn't measure up, but he's not far off in terms of the best open class horses. So, look, I look at the race in general, the Taranaki Cup. Colorado Star led on that occasion, and naturally there was no speed in that race and he defaulted as the leader, but he did go along up in front. Suggests that it was a good staying effort from, in particular, the winner, but also Soldier Boy looking to go over 2-4.
Right, what's that Quinella? What is it? Have you worked it out?
$901.
Is that the Quinella?
That's it. Fixed Quinella.
What, Lincoln King and Roger That?
What's the exacta?
Who do you want in front?
Yeah, it's hard to choose who you'd want in front out of those two, to be fair. Good luck to all connections, obviously. Where'd you land? How do we attack the race, bar your dollar Quinella there on Lincoln King and Roger That? Who's going to win the Avondale Cup, Paul?
It's really hard to look past Aquacade for mine.
You're on the bandwagon?
Yeah, I am. She just looks super strong in that win at Tauranga. And the form over the last 3 or 4 starts has been super. She almost picks herself.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Steve, if you had to have one bet in the race, or how are you attacking the Avondale Cup?
Even with a sticky gate, I've got Aquacade as the horse to beat. I just love her how she's won off the minimum. I think I mentioned she was on the minimum earlier on, but she's won off the minimum with 53 being the case this year. I've got her on top just with her speed ratings and where she sits in the conditions of the race with 54 on her back. I've got Z-Falls for second, just purely like how she maps in this race. Drawn Barrier 1 with her recent figures. And outside that, it's a bit of a dart job. Dionysus, Contemplation, the James Wellwood team. Wouldn't be surprised if they ran in the top 2 or 3. But Aquacade in front of Z-Falls. And important race to reshape the Auckland Cup market, which is in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, how's
Basically,
that looking?
you've got 90% of the horses that are in the mix with the Auckland Cup running in the Avondale Cup, excluding Ladies Man, who Alan Sharrock is very keen to take up to Auckland in a couple of weeks, and he sits in the second line at $5 with Dionysus. But Aquacade's at a similar price to what she's paying tomorrow at a $4 quote.
Okay, that is going to be interesting.
Can I throw Soprano Supreme in there?
Yeah, well, there's a bit of money for it.
Yeah, I do. I do like it. I thought the run over the mile, 2 starts back, was very, very good. Probably didn't quite get the run that they wanted in the Karaka Cup. Go again.
Has been, is it 14 into 12 on round Soprano Supreme? So
14, 13, 12.
Always a big syndicate involved, and we always track money. It's one of those horses that tracks money on Thursday and Friday, and yeah, look, wouldn't mind running race right now with that genuine 7 forecasted, but it's a runner's chance. Not sure how strong it is over 2-4, but we'll see.
We'll see. Okay, for a bit of money there though. We can say that around Soprano Supreme,
Indeed.
can't we? Yeah. Okay. Okay, team. Half time, intermission, and we do have a minute with Moate, I believe. Paul, who'd you land on this week?
We went with L.I.M. or Liam Cody, as he's known.
Hey, I'm Liam Cowrie and I'm an apprentice jockey.
Who's been the biggest influence in racing for you?
Oh, well, everyone really, yeah.
The first car you ever owned?
Honda Civic.
Toilet paper, over or under?
Over.
Most famous person in your phone contacts?
Christelle.
Your go-to karaoke song?
I don't sing karaoke.
Your favourite NRL team?
I go the Mighty Warriors, always.
Favourite junk food?
Rations.
Who should be All Black coach?
Mr. Myers, Kevin Myers, yeah.
Who has it easier, jockeys or trainers?
Trainers, always.
Favourite board game?
Monopoly.
Union or league?
League.
Favourite cocktail?
Pina colada.
Fill in the blank. The best Barrett brother is?
Bowden.
Favourite horse you've ever ridden?
Prince Leo.
Favourite movie?
Lord of the Rings.
Race you'd most like to win?
The Derby.
Horse we should be keeping an eye out for this season?
I haven't ridden enough to change it.
Fantastic. Brilliant. Thanks, mate.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks to Liam Cody there. Partial to ration, Paul, to be fair, I am.
How good.
Cheese and bacon flavour.
Rations. Well, I'd like to get his thoughts on the, now they've changed the recipe or...
Yeah, don't
sort
go
of-
there. Don't
yeah.
go there. Your
Hey,
twisty,
don't
your
ruin a good
burger
thing.
ring, it's all not as good as back in our day.
No. And you'd love him with the big turbos.
I was going to mention that I was going to get to the Turbos beanie. What a legend. What a legend. Great CD man, great man or two man. Liam Cody, thanks for joining us there on Minute with Moate. Okay, guys, 2 more races we want to touch on. We're going to stick at Avondale at this point, and race number 2 on the card, Steve's the Network Visuals 3-year-old 1,200 metres. And it does look like the Tangerine Army hold the key here.
Yeah, before I dive into the marketplace, we have had a withdrawal in the last 24 hours, being Perfect Puss number 5. So a lot of these horses, or a lot of their price tags next to their name, have come in on the back of that scratching. But overall, punters very keen at the point end of the market. The stable pair Incognito at $2.20, off a peak of roughly around about $2.50, and I Choose You $3.80 and $3.20. Mascarinto $4.50 out a couple turns to 4.8. Tarted Up out of turn 7 to 7.50. Collateral Damage first up, no money at a $9 quote, and then best of the rest is 31 The Field, Rubelet. But overall, very keen on Cognito, and I Choose You breaking down money driven individually. It's matching dollar for dollar basically.
Yeah, okay, Paul.
Smallish
14% deduction there with Perfect Puss coming out.
Yeah, no deductions, no surprises, of course, Thad. So if you're on, on anyone, you've got your price. Those who are on Cognito, what was So Cognito 220. What's Cognito at the moment?
Yeah, 220 now. I think it was,
270 was the original price
Prior.
on Wednesday when Perfect Puss.
it must have been $4. I Choose You, so that's 320 now. So
So yeah, if you've got one of the Tangerine Army up the top there, and you got on before the scratching, no deductions, no surprises,
till the-
all summer long.
to the end of March, we've got another month and a half.
Yeah, so that's like a TAB summer.
It's the AB summer. Be nice to see a bit more summer around these parts. Look, it's not really a race I want to watch again, to be perfectly honest, Steve. But how does Opie get Cognito home here in a Wellington Guineas?
Well, it's just Opie being Opie, isn't it? Patient, drew an inside gate, very patient, didn't panic at all.
No.
Race shape, yeah, look, they went along in the Guineas. Look, the overall race was well below par, which is a slight negative. 3.4 lengths below par was the Guineas, and look, the form's been fair out of it thus far. I can see not many horses have bounced and run out of the Wellington Guineas, but you see that they've gone out fairly hard. 47 change to the 600, running home well below par in terms of open class par, but when normalised to a class rating, it's minus 3.4, so that is a slight negative. I'm intrigued to see Cognito. Look, Te Akau have decided to drop him back to 1,200 metres. Obviously, they believe he's not a horse at this stage of his career to go over 1.25 miles. I guess they're working back from a Levin Classic in March, and they've just freshened him on the post-victory in the Wellington Guineas over 7 furlongs, back to 1,200, maybe step him up to 1,400 and then a mile in mid-March. I'm just guessing, but that looks to be an okay plan around Cognito. So, look, well, he's rated roughly, a 43% chance on the back of that scratching. I just can't have him at that quote, 220, 230. I've got him more at a 290 quote. I think he's far too short, Cognito. I don't mind I Choose You. I don't mind it at a $3.20 price.
Well, that was a good win on February the 3rd there. Look, coming off not a bad run behind Maven Bell there, and Mascarino comes out of that same race. But this win here on the back of this was pretty solid.
It was. I wanted to take a knock against her here, but then you look at it, and there just was nothing in the field. There was nothing in the field because the Al Mansour, I think, it's a race where you can identify as making a bit of cash off and taking a set against if it's the right horse coming out of that race and stepping up to a higher grade. But this was dropping back in grade significantly. I Choose You, and she put what I'd say is an average field away. She was good on the eye. Numbers were okay, not enormous. You see there, just a fraction above the class rating by half a length. I think there's been a slight query about it. Is she as good right-handed v left-handed? All her best form has been left-handed. I know the stable were quite open about that. As a 2-year-old and early doors as a 3-year-old. So, look, they're rolling the dice again, see if she can perform right-handed at Pukekohe. But, look, she wouldn't have to improve much. As I mentioned, with Cognito running well below par in the Wellington Guineas in terms of a speed rating, she was bang on par at 65 grade. There's not too much separation when you normalise it. Look, she's found her mark again at 320, but she may be the play because Cognito's just a fraction too short in my book.
Well, Paulie, I mean, Mascarinto actually beat I Choose You home in an El Mansour Trophy the start prior for I Choose You, and Mascarinto's an on-pace runner that'll give a good account of itself.
Certainly would. I think she finished 4th here, Mascarino, and I Choose You ran into 7th.
Yeah.
Just got into a wee bit of trouble there. I can understand the backers of Mascarinto and I Choose You, but I just can't stop looking away from Cognito. I know it was an absolutely sensational ride by Opie in the Wellington Guineas, but I love the way that the horse also didn't panic. It just seemed very, very calm, relaxed.
Like driving a car through there, wasn't
it? Indeed. And we've got a smallish field here, so we're probably not going to find the sort of trouble that Cognito almost got into in the Wellington Guineas. I think he's definitely the bet. And if you got on before the scratching, I think you're doing very, very well.
Okay, so back to 1,200, no concern.
No
Probably
concerns.
an advantage, potentially.
I think so too. And I'm sure Te Akau had just been very, very patient with this boy. And as Steve said, probably heading to the Levin Classic. I think next season we'll see this boy step up over some much bigger distances and show the class that he's got. So, Cognito, I think, is still a great bet at around the 220 mark.
Okay, you touched on that El Mansour Trophy, Steve, and how, potentially we could pot it to some degree, but Mascarino will be a pace influence in this race, and it was a pretty strong effort that day.
It's been a hard horse to catch. He was enormous. I can remember making his debut win as a 2-year-old at Matamata. Rated through the roof that day, and he just regressed as the 2-year-old season went on, Mascarinto. Look, I think he's found the right race purely on the map. I don't see a huge amount of speed. It's either the 2 or the 6, the 6 or the 2. Look, Stylish Invasion is on debut, so just not sure where that's going to sit in the map, and has shown okay speed at the trials recently, but in terms of race day / exposed form, I've got Mascarinto as the default leader. I think that's the best way to ride him, where he can sit on speed and dominate, in particular over 1,200 metres. Tarted Up is a horse that likes to go forward, but I just think they'll look to ride it a little bit more neutral on the back of what happened at Trentham, albeit that was on a heavy track, and I think that was its biggest negative, Tarted Up, who was a well-backed commodity that day at Trentham, but does have that Maven Bell form, the 2 starts back, which again you can link up around I Choose You and Mascarinto, but I think they'll just look to take a sit around Tarted Up, and that really does default to Mascarinto.
We're Tarted Up. Do we put it down to the track last time? Well backed.
Yep,
well backed.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It has wet track form, but that was through a maiden class. But obviously that can be a bit misleading, as when it steps up in grade against race winners, it just didn't quite have the form / speed ratings to perform on a wet track. So look, I definitely want to forgive it at Trentham. Its run in behind Maven Bell 2 starts ago was very, very good at Pukekohe. And yeah, I don't know, I reckon 1,200's a slight negative around Cognito. I really do. 59 on its back. It's going to probably sit in the first or second half of the field. I know it's not a big field, so that may be a beneficial for Cognito's winning chances, but I don't know, at 220, 59 on its back and trip to 1,200, knowing that it's working back from a grand final, it is a thin race, I concede that, but I think you deserve 250 in North.
You boys are loggerheads here then in this race. You're going Cognito all the way, Paul.
I look back to last week and our preview of the Herbie Dyke, and we were trying to look at reasons why Sharp and Smart wouldn't win.
What were we doing?
I'm not saying Cognito's in the same class as Sharp and Smart at the moment, but it sort of has the same shape to it for mine, this race, and I'm happy to go with the horse that's in a good vein of form at the moment.
Okay. Righto, guys, we've got to push it on race number 6 down at Ascot Park, Invercargill. Big day down there. It is the ILT Ascot Park Hotel Southland Guineas over 1,600. But just first run us through track conditions, Steve, if you've got them there.
Let's have a look. A soft 5 presently at Ascot Park. That was taken earlier this morning. Overcast. Look, the rail's in a true position. There's been no rain for the last 24 hours, and I think the weather's okay for the next 24, 36 hours. So, look, I think a soft 5 with a possible upgrade on race day to a 4.
How good was this favourite last time out, Steve? Run us through this market.
Very, very good. Backed up on the clock, which we'll touch on shortly. $2.70 was the opening quote on Wednesday. That it's been driven into 2.30. It was 2.50 when I walked out the office yesterday, and since then it's been backed into 2.3 specialty. In front of Goldie's Chance at $5.50. Chibano at $7, Inflamed bouncing between $11 and $12. The Grey Goose out of turn 12 out to 13. Best of the rest is the impressive maiden winner, and Tough Time for Andrew Carston at a $15 price from the original quote of 13. So look, overall summary, they're very keen on number 1 specialty.
Yeah, why wouldn't you be, Paul, after that dominant one in the Dunedin Guineas? We had a $2 Tiaki, our favourite, and
Specialty just went whoosh. Correct.
I mean, that was very impressive. I think the commentator on the day, you might hear it, says here's the real specialty, and it sure was. Dustin Evans it was, wasn't it?
It was indeed, yeah. I'll just have a look at the graphics here. Anyway.
There we go.
There we are.
The guys would get it.
Specialty first there. Charbano ran in nicely for 3rd and Inflamed for 6th. But yeah, look at this. Just absolutely ran away from the race favourite. So on the back of that run, you'd have to say, is a deserved favourite here. And I see that we've already taken a wee bit of cash on specialty. So look at the figures there. They ran pretty quickly that first 600, and he was very, very good. So I'm on. I'm a believer.
You're on. It's as simple as that. Well, I mean, that Gorgon's win by the second favourite in Goldie's Chance was also very good, and there's been some money for Goldie's Chance at 5.5. I think the Grey Goose comes out of this one as well, Steve.
Yeah, the Grey Goose was a touch unlucky, got held up at a vital stage. I want to pot this form though. I don't think it's the ingredients to be winning and beating specialty tomorrow. You mentioned Goldie's Chance, the obvious winner. You look at the numbers, it was horrible. Well below par, I think from memory, 3.8 inch below par. the overall class rating. You compare that to Specialty's victory last start. These horses need to find at least 4 or 5 lengths to be beating Specialty if Specialty can replicate its win last start. Even if Specialty regresses slightly, it would have to be a significant regress for these horses to be turning the tables from a different form line in the Gore Guineas.
Okay, so we're saying Dunedin Guineas is the way.
If you take a look back at that Gore Guineas, I thought the Grey Goose just ran into just a whole lot of trouble. So I'm willing to have another little stab there. Look, Specialty on top, but the Grey Goose, I think, at the odds at around $12, $13, I think is certainly worth a go, at least each way. I like that debut win. I thought she was very, very good there, and we didn't get to see the best of her in the Gore Guineas. So I'm willing to give her another chance, and I do like the price we're getting. So the Grey Goose is in my numbers as well.
Yeah, okay, that's good to know. And as you say, we just don't know the ceiling with the Grey Goose because it was unlucky in that race. Look, Charbano and Inflamed, Steve come out of the same race. Charbano very good for the Pitman team. Inflamed was a big shortener in the race from memory in that Dunedin Guineas. Started around $8. I'm sure it was out around $16. So, look, money talks all languages around Inflamed.
Yeah, well, if I want to target the Specialty form line, then you've got to include the 5 and the 11 in terms, the 5 and the 8 in terms of surrounding Specialty and exotic bet types. Look, Inflamed just had a wide gate last start in the Dunedin Guineas, had to push forward, facing the breeze, did it tough early doors. Maybe just found it wanting in the straight. Inflamed, just couldn't quite ping off the work it had done in the early stages of the race. Charbano, I think that's clearly the second elect. I wouldn't be surprised if it started clear second favourite, Charbano. So I think Goldie's chance, there's an opportunity that will ease if you like the 7 and be intercepted by Charbano, who will start second line, because I think overall the market will gravitate towards the Dunedin Guineas and then taking a slight set against the Gore Guineas.
Anyone else we need to touch on here, Paul, before we wind it up? I mean, look, Press Chargers was very good, winning on debut. Haggle's been a winner. There's a lot of maiden winners. It's quite hard to line that form up sometimes, isn't it?
It certainly is, and I think you're just confusing the market at the moment now, Thad.
I'm trying to confuse our viewers. That's what I'm doing.
I don't think we have to look past Specialty or the Grey Goose. I'm very, very confident. I've got the Quinella here.
Oh, you better look it up for us with the fixed Quinellas, since you've got a $900 one we're collecting up north. The Grey Goose and Specialty in this year's Southland Guineas. Steve, you'll be with Specialty here, obviously, off that last start one.
Yeah, I am. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if it started in the red, trade in the red. Leading up to the race, Specialty. I think, as I mentioned, they'll gravitate towards the 1 and Charbano purely because it comes out of the same race. You got no Romancing the Moon, who finished second in this race, so you don't have to worry about the Te Akau filly on this occasion. Inflamed, I think she's found her right price at a $12 quote, but naturally I think there's a bit of wiggle room for the 5 to at least start in that second line in front of Goldie's chance.
Okay, so a bit of a push towards that Dunedin Guineas market's the prediction here from the team. But Paul doesn't mind the Grey Goose going into his numbers and taking Quinellas. Going to be a big day down there at Invercargill, as it always is. Invercargill Guineas Day. Now, Southland Guineas, is it? What am I calling it, boys? I've got to get that right. Southland Guineas, quite right. My apologies, team. Okay, looking forward to a big day of action out of Ascot Park as well. Right, team, time to go to bets of the weekend, and I'm just
We should mention BP.
Oh, yeah. Have we not mentioned BP? No. Well, he had a winner, didn't he?
He did. He's broken
the hoodoo.
He's on the way up. He is on the way up.
Good horse, Mark Twain.
Mark Twain, yeah.
Good horse.
Yeah, okay. And Derby calculations, obviously.
Absolutely. There's no dramas about that horse getting the 2-4. You look at the first and second dam, Pentathon and Pentathlon are in that family. So, and he's by shocking. He'll eat up the 2-4. And whether he has the class to beat the top 2 or 3 in the market remains to be seen. But if there's any chink in the armour around Pro S, potentially at 2-4,
the source will find it out. Yeah, okay, yeah, but he's back, BP.
Yep, at a nice price too.
Got out to about 580. Couldn't understand the drift, to be perfectly honest.
They see BP's money and they take no notice and they go out the door.
They knew, yeah. Pays to bet against him. He is back, BP. I'm sure he'll be back next week with his best bet. But Paul, I'm having to have a double take here at your plus and minus here. Where'd you go for your best bet, Mr. Vadaboom?
Oh, well, yeah, Mr. Vadaboom last week, and another drifter. I think the boys pushed it out to 850 last week. The market got it wrong because they didn't factor in Kevin Myers.
Yeah, that's right.
But this week I'm going with La Option, race 9 at Invercargill.
How's your French? Is that what it is?
La Option.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. Yep.
Yeah. Look, really like that was at a couple of starts back, and I think in that field should be able to find a spot and pick us up another one. Well, Steve would probably say, if you look at the figures, I'm going to fall into a hole soon. I cannot keep this up.
You've got to regress at some point.
I'm going to regress.
Steve, you had a slight regression last week, unfortunately. Where'd you land with your best bet for the weekend?
Yeah, I'll go down to the Southland Guineas specialty. A little sticky gate there, but you see this win last start in the Dunedin Guineas, just needs to replicate that. Even allowing for a slight regress should be too good if you're comparing it to what the Gore Guineas produced a few weeks back. There really is a no contest. There's 4 or 5 lengths between what we saw in the Dunedin Guineas with specialty winning v the Gore Guineas. So on that score, I'll go with specialty as the best bet throughout the weekend, and yeah, may even touch even money into the red on race day.
Okay, very good. Time to wrap it up for another week. Did you get that Quinella price? Grey Goose and specialty?
$14 fixed at the moment.
14.
There we go.
Okay, very good. What do we got for the weekend, boys? What's on the cards, Paul, that we need to know about?
Don't forget our Twitter poll. The runners this week, Waitak, race 5 at Te Rapa, race 7, Aquacade, specialty, Steve's tip, race 6 down at Invercargill. Let's boost that one, yeah. And as a thought in race 7 down at Invercargill. Don't forget, leave a comment. You're going the draw to win a $100 bonus bet. Last week's winner was @_Greg Monk. So I guess there was already a @Greg Monk.
He missed out, Greg.
Yeah, so he's got the underscore in there.
All best bet runners on that graphic. Aquacade, Waitak. Not sure about Assathorpe, but definitely specialty. So
yeah, if it's $2.30 now, we get a boost. It'll be a bit more than $2, won't it? So we'll be hoping we can get specialty over the line there in this week's Twitter poll. Bonus back blitz is on again, Paul, I presume, and you've already mentioned no deductions.
Yep, bonus back blitz on the first 4 races at Pukekohe, Invercargill, Rosehill and Flemington this Saturday. Everyone knows how it works these days, don't they? Refund up to $50 if your runner finishes 2nd, 3rd or 4th in the final field win market. Check out all the T's and C's at the TAB website. Have I mentioned no deductions, no surprises?
Yes, you have again. We can move on from that. But that is going till March and has been hugely popular, there's no doubt. And already in that Cognito race, they've had some benefit. Right, we better push for the week. But Steve, big week in Australia. I think Pierre's going around. But that'll be good to see. Hopefully he's competitive.
I can compare him as similar to Agon in terms of his ratings for NZ. And he's heading over there in the Hobartville, which we know Agon won. So... Look, I think he opened double figures. I'm not sure where he lies at the moment, Pierre, but he'll be a runner's chance. He's a good one out of the Godolphin stable is the horse to beat. But
some sad news overnight though with Dean Lester.
Yeah,
great friend of the show. He's been on the leg up many a time, Dean, and he was always great to deal with, wasn't he? Sad to see him pass away at age 54. Too soon.
Way too soon.
Too soon. Look, he's been unwell for a while, which is a real shame. But he was just a genuine bloke. We didn't have a huge amount to do with him, Thad, but as you mentioned, he was on the leg up early doors, and it was just a genuine podcast, and he always was happy to share his time, and he was just a peerless as a tipster, and a great reader of a race. And I definitely learnt 1 or 2 things off Dean just listening to what he said on the podcast, but also throughout his different social media outlets over in Australia. So, sad day.
All the best to his family, thoughts with them. And thank you, boys, for your efforts for another week. We'll see you in 7 days' time. We've got derbies coming up soon. Or
BC's back next week.
Oh, you're out of here, right?
Big day, Mudda.
Big day, Mudda. Stay in the sun. Be with us in 7 days' time. I know you'll be here on the leg up.